Well, welcome once again to another episode of Business Ahas. This one's actually really special because it hits close to home for me. Hits close to home for lots of people that are involved in the world of healthcare. And so about 15 years ago, I founded a nonprofit organization, and today, Stop Our Stigma, so stopourstigma.org. I'm also super excited to announce that last Saturday, just a few days ago, we had our second annual gala, and we exceeded $100,000 in donations and prizes that people won during the event. We're super excited about that, and it was such a great turnout. And today I'm even more excited because we're going to talk about Stop Our Stigma. We have the president of the foundation, Dale Crogan. Dale's a captain, paramedic firefighter with the Mesa Fire Department for the last 32 years. And also with us is Simone Cuccurullo. She's the anchor for Good Morning Arizona. So it's interesting because our discussion today is pretty unique because originally we met Dale and Simone because Simone interviewed Dale. So they invited Dale on to the Good Morning Arizona show last year during Suicide Prevention Month. And during that month, we were talking about the whole adage of suicide and suicide prevention. Just as a side, paramedics, firefighters, and EMTs have a 39% higher rate of suicide than the general public. And we as an organization want to curve that number. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today with Dale and with Simone. So originally when Simone aired her program and was interviewing Dale about Stop Our Stigma, after this segment was over, Simone reached out to Dale and said, I want to be more involved. And lo and behold, we've turned those tides now, and we have with us Simone and Dale, because Simone now is not only involved, she's one of our board members. And so we're super excited to have both of them here today. Gosh, you guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so it is still almost the summer's over, and we have the fireplace on. So obviously this is like a great setup, right? But it's working, right?
Fireside chat.
Fireside, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, right, Dale?
Exactly.
Yeah, Dale, tell us a little bit about your history in the Mesa Fire Department.
Yeah, so I've been with Mesa Fire Department for 32 years. I'm currently the peer support coordinator for about the last decade, 12 years maybe. And I manage all the programs for PTSD, crisis management, sobriety, stress overall for all first responders, police, fire, EMTs, paramedics.
That's fantastic. And not only for the sworn individuals, you also do this for the city of Mesa as well now, correct?
Correct. About 3 years ago, the city came to me and asked if I would start building out mental health programs for all city employees. And as far as I know, we're the only city in the country that's taking a really good step forward for mental health for all city employees. That's
incredible. Hey, what'd you think of Saturday night?
Loved it. It was such a good time. We had a blast.
And to have a sellout and to exceed $100,000 in funds raised, man.
Well beyond our goals.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah.
And Simone, 10 years in the industry.
Yes.
So you started when you were 14?
Thank you so much.
Or maybe 15?
I started when I was 21, 22 years old, right out of school, and hit the ground running, and it's been a great 10-year journey.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about your role currently at Good Morning Arizona, and also talk a little bit about as an anchor. Wow,
Sure.
That's awesome.
Thank
and also
you.
talk a little bit about how you first reached out to Dale. Want to walk through
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. So I went to school at Temple University in Philadelphia. I got my degree in broadcast journalism. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to pursue this career. My first job was in Erie, Pennsylvania. After that, I moved to Fort Myers, Florida, then to Richmond, Virginia. And then in 2023, I got an anchor opportunity here in Phoenix. So I anchor the 4:30 to 6 o'clock show on Good Morning Arizona.
That's 4:30 a.m.
4:30 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah, so I go to bed fairly early. It's definitely an interesting lifestyle, but it's a very rewarding job. I have volunteered with mental health organizations in the past. It's just something I'm super passionate about. And when Dale came in and did the segment, I was so moved by S.O.S. and the mission that I was just I felt compelled to ask him a little bit more, like you mentioned. And we've created this partnership, and I've been so blessed and thrilled to be a part of it. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
That's awesome. So is this a little bit awkward now? You're the one being interviewed, right?
It's definitely weird.
Yeah, me directing you versus you going, no, we're not going to do that, right?
I'm used to asking the questions, so this is definitely a change of pace, but I'm really excited for our conversation.
Oh, that's super cool. So when you had the conversation with Dale, what struck you in what Dale said during the interview?
I think that being on the front lines as first responders, our firefighters, our police, our EMTs, we are exposed to so much. It's kind of similar in a way to what us as journalists and as news people are exposed to. Every morning I wake up And I go on there at 4:30 in the morning and I tell people about crimes that have happened in our city. And it's very heavy. It weighs on you. And I think that what struck me the most was that Dale was kind of putting the human aspect to, yeah, we glorify our firefighters and our EMTs and our policemen and women. And they are our heroes and our local first responders, but they're also human and they deal with human emotions just like the rest of us do. And that human aspect of it really just struck me and stuck with me. And that's kind of what made me want to learn more about S.O.S.
When you mentioned earlier about in the morning, you're reporting on the crime and on the accidents and everything that's not necessarily negative, but it's the news. Yeah. And we understand the news and kind of the purpose behind it and the purpose in reporting. But it's interesting, if you back up the train just one step, before those incidents happen or when they happen, people called 911. People call 911 on the worst day of their life. And as a paramedic, an EMT, and a firefighter, it's our job to respond to those 10, 15 times a day from the worst day of that other person's life to make it just a little bit better. So it kind of wears,
Totally.
We become callous. We can be mean sometimes, even sometimes to our families. So Dale, talk a little bit about what we're doing now at S.O.S., but family specifically.
Yeah, one of the missions for us with S.O.S. is obviously to reduce suicides in first responders. And what we've kind of been talking about over these last few years is how do we get to that first responder to make sure that they feel comfortable reaching out for help, right? Stopping the stigma of reaching out. So we've really this year decided in 2026, our focus is really addressing the families. Right? The families are the first ones to see changes in us. They're the first ones to recognize when something's off, even when we don't recognize it in ourselves first. So making sure that the families understand what stress looks like, how first responders do or don't cope with stress, and being able to see those first signs as they start to appear.
So Dale, when this kind of came about, it kind of was a little bit of a curveball. We've learned over the course of the years that EMTs, paramedics, and firefighters get a ton of training on their own self-help, but they are typically the last ones to ask for help.
Excellent. Yeah, that's exactly what we kind of ran up against, right? Is we provide all of this great training and we go through these different programs annually in some departments. But unless we pin a note on that first responder's shirt and have them take it home in their lunchbox to their family, that messaging or that training really stops at the door when they get off work. And we've realized that is the biggest key that we're missing in most of our programs is how do we connect with the families? How do we connect with their support system to help create those opportunities for resources? So
when that EMT, paramedic, firefighter gets home, and after the training we provide to the loved ones, then they notice something's off. Correct. They notice that something's not quite right with their loved one. And I think we also put it on great funerals.
We do.
And honestly, we want to stop putting it on great funerals. And where the buck probably very easily could stop is a family seeing something and saying something.
Absolutely. Seeing something is saying something is exactly what we teach our kids. Why are we not teaching this to our families and our first responders? And I think that is so important in the messaging and what we're trying to do. When we started this program, we really looked at family members. But what we're finding out is first responders come into this career at such a young age. A lot of them don't have a family that they're going home to. So we're reaching out to them to help provide stuff for their parents or for their partners or whoever they use as their support system in order to make that connection.
And they're all welcome, right?
And they're all welcome. They're all welcome. I've had 2 firefighters bring both their parents and one of them brought their grandparents to some of our training, which was amazing to see.
Yeah, that's incredible. And a little bit about the First Responder Resiliency Program. This was designed to train the actual firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs, but you've used this now to also train the family members.
Absolutely. This program came out of the University of Arizona, and it's really taught in 2 forms. One is resiliency and one is leadership. And we've been able to tweak the program enough to make it make sense for that first responder support system so that they understand what the individual needs to build as far as coping skills and resiliency skills, but then also learning how to enhance those skills along the way as a family, as a unit, as a support system.
It's interesting that how that's evolved and how our conversations evolved about how do we impact. So for so many years since the beginning of Stop Our Stigma, we were such a great resource because our board is an incredible board of directors, of leaders here in the Valley, and having Simone on board as well, and having her ability to put something on the air quickly or be able to respond to something very quickly has been phenomenal. So we really appreciate that. We have our business ahas, and we put on hundreds and hundreds of episodes, and it's about that aha moment. But today, the aha moment actually is from me. My aha moment was when you mentioned to me that we need to be able to change the way our trajectory is at Stop Our Stigma and focus on the family. That really was a light bulb for me, because we are the last person. I said it earlier. We're the last ones that are going to ask for help. And when somebody asks us, "Are you okay?" What do we say?
Absolutely.
But are
Fine.
we? The answer is no. And fine. Well, no, you don't look fine. And that's really interesting, because that started with me when I started journaling to write my book. This is a journal from 1989, and it's about a year long. My journey being an EMT and a medic. And these stories in here are absolutely 100% fiction, because it's a fictional book. But at the end of the day, the stories are about a very callous human. And because I had said some very negative things to patients, and it really guided me in how I could be a better person when I went back and started really understanding, at the end of the day, we're there when people call 911 to not be a jerk.
Well, Jim, I think that's one of the things that most of us find ourselves slipping into, that is being a bit jaded on the people that we're going out and serving in the community. And when we come home and we talk about those calls in that way, that's one of those very first signs that the family members recognize now, saying something's changed. They no longer care for the people they're out there providing care for. And once that change starts to happen, we'd like to be able to come in and help educate and provide resources and look at stress and see what's going on with that individual, because it's very common. For a lot of us, you think about, you could spend 20 years actually helping people you really don't like. And that starts to weigh on you. When you're helping people that you know or you love, people in your own community, that's the way the fire service started, right? All these small towns across America where your fire station was the center of town, right? So every Norman Rockwell painting has the fire station in the center of town with kids and bicycles and all that. We start getting bigger and larger cities. You develop this callousness, like you said, and that's some of the first signs that family members can see.
Isn't it true that most of the fire departments across the country today are still volunteer?
There are a number of agencies still across the country that are volunteer.
We don't hear about them because all we hear about is the large municipalities, but there are hundreds of fire districts and little fire departments, and there are other volunteers. For example, where Simone's from is a great example. The town where you grew up, I'm sure many years ago, was a volunteer fire department.
Absolutely. I grew up in a suburban town outside of Philadelphia, and there was always volunteer firefighters. And that was something that I continued to see when I started my career professionally. I remember covering hurricanes when I lived in Florida, and always the first people to answer the call are those volunteers, which is something that's so amazing because they do not hesitate. They drop everything to be on the front lines when disaster strikes.
So as a reporter, you do hundreds, if not thousands, of stories.
It's a lot. I don't keep track, but it's definitely a big amount.
But in reality, if you think about it, it's kind of a mile wide and an inch deep. But you broke that mold when you agreed to be on our board of directors. So now you're choosing to be an inch wide and a mile deep with Stop Our Stigma. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I think everyone watching this can relate. We all feel very spread thin at times. And whenever I feel that way, I kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, where can I commit and devote a lot of my time, or at least a bigger portion of my time, to something that I feel passionate about? I see stories and report stories every single day, and I can tell you a common thread in every single one of them is mental health. And that's also something that drew me to Stop Our Stigma, is because I want people to take their mental health seriously, especially our first responders who see so much and are exposed to so much on a daily basis. That's why I felt compelled to try to dig a little bit deeper into this issue in our community here in the Valley area in the state of Arizona, and try to make a difference wherever we can. I think, again, it's a big responsibility. I think a lot of people glorify and glamorize, similar to firefighting. They look at our jobs or the news people and like, oh, that's such a glamorous thing. But at the end of the day, it's a responsibility. I have a responsibility to my community, whether that's back in Pennsylvania, here in Arizona, or any of the other various places that I've been, to just try and do right by the people that we're serving every single day. So while we're not on the front line saving lives, we are bringing those stories to life and letting our viewers know what goes on a daily basis out there.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things when Simone and I started talking, we started comparing the two jobs that we do, is that there's so much relatability between the two, right? We talk about our dispatchers, our EMTs, our paramedics, firefighters, but there are groups of people that aren't necessarily frontline, but still have a massive impact by what they see or hear. And I think about reporters in that same way. You're reporting on news that is oftentimes very tragic, and it's constant. And you have to be able to absorb that and move through it. And then you layer over that the criticism that comes about from news today, right? Whether it's being called fake news, or whether they don't believe in the political side that anyone stands on, or they're not telling the truth. all of that stress starts to pile up. So we started having this discussion about there's a big comparison in that day-to-day stress level for both of these professions in different ways, but equal.
Interesting. So it's what we hear and what we see based upon what she says. And then we react to that.
Right. And what I am reporting is many times coming from our local agencies. We are emailing the PIOs for the various police departments and fire departments and asking them for the information. So it's kind of, when you get so deep into it, it's like, wow, we are in this giant loop of just a system that, does a lot of good, but unfortunately brings to light a lot of the bad things that happen out there. And we have to inform the public. That will never go away. That will never stop. Unfortunately, most of it is very negative. And we do have people behind the scenes as well that you don't see on camera, producers and editors and writers that are also exposed to all of this trauma. And even though they're not experiencing it firsthand, it's not themselves or their family members, it still weighs on you.
But they're choosing to delete the scene that has the fatality person actually in the shot. And they have to make a decision. When they see that, you can't unsee certain things.
Totally. There's countless times in the morning, unfortunately, where we are on the scene of a deadly accident, or the chopper is over the scene and there's a body, or a news drone is over the scene and you can see the body and a tarp. And, we don't publicize that ever, because of course our utmost responsibility is treating victims of these horrific acts with respect and dignity, and making sure that we are doing our jobs as journalists to be unbiased and deliver the facts of the story. And a lot of times we don't know who's at fault. Is there a suspect? All that stuff, it comes in very fluidly. So we have to do our best to put the pieces together without making mistakes. And that's our job. And I think that criticism comes in a lot of times, and people don't really realize what's going on behind the scenes. Is we're 17 places at once, and there's a lot of information coming in from a lot of different agencies. And our job is to keep it all together, report it in a clear and concise manner, and get it on the air every morning.
So earlier, Simone, we talked about you coming on board to our board of directors for Stop Our Stigma. And we talked a little bit about your passion about mental health and how much it affects so many people. So what do you expect from your perspective to really gain out of serving on the board?
Absolutely. I think first things first, I always want to immerse myself in wherever I'm living. As I mentioned, I've been moving around the past 10 years, and it's really hard to feel a sense of community and a sense of home when you're just picking up and going every 2 and 3 years. So being involved is something that I've always really placed an important aspect of life on, because I think that in order to feel like you're getting something back from the place where you're living, you have to do your part and give your time wherever you can. With S.O.S, I hope to just spread awareness. I hope to use the small platform that I have to try to let somebody out there, if I can help one person who's seeing this, just say, oh, okay, I feel seen.
Wait a minute, small platform?
No,
I would call that a big platform, wouldn't you, Dale?
Definitely a big platform.
Yeah, wait a minute here now.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I try to just live by the motto of keep it real always. I think that a lot of times there's a lot of ego involved with this job. It can be very vain. That's one of the things that I don't love about it, but it is part of the job, right? And, as I mentioned, people look on TV and they see, oh, this is so glamorous, and idolize or pedestal, whatever that may look like. My goal is really to just let people at home know, hey, I see you. I also struggle. Many people struggle. It's more common than you think, and you're not alone. And if I can spread that message to just one person, then I feel like my job is done.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Dale, talk a little bit about impact and things, maybe a story or two about things you've done or we've done as an organization. Actually, we have actually had an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. As we start talking about the impact of a organization like S.O.S. and what have we seen, we've had a number of incidents over the last few years that have hit a lot of organizations really hard. This summer here in Mesa, where we had a paramedic die from suicide, and the impact was across the board. And for a lot of us, it really questioned how much work are we really doing and how are we getting it done? And it only took a matter of time for us to really realize how many people we really are impacting. Even though we're still struggling, even though we're still dealing with suicides, we're dealing with stress, we are helping enormous amount of people on a regular basis.
But unfortunately, we also just don't know, because obviously you can't measure the impact that we had where somebody chose to get help.
Right. And that was one of the conversations that I had with a colleague, is how many people have crossed our threshold and have said that they've had thoughts of suicide or even attempted suicide, but are still here with us today. When we talk about first responders, we're never good at telling stories about that or asking for help. How many people have come through our door who haven't told us that they struggled with those things? And you talk about an impact. That's really where I see the impact with Simone being enormous for us, is that how many times have we gone somewhere or had a loved one or a partner say, oh, I saw this on the news today. Have you heard about this? Or this came across today on the news. I'd love to talk to you about it. It's a way for us to be able to hit those family members in a way that we just don't have the capacity to do as a charity or as a foundation. We can spread all the goodwill we can do all the training, but when we have somebody, like Simone said, that single person who lives out there who says, hey, I saw this today and my brother's a firefighter, I'm going to talk to him about it.
Okay, Dale, let's assume for a moment you have a crystal ball. What's the future look like?
I think it's changing, and I think it's changing for the better.
Because the stigma's not gone, but the stigma's changed. Back when we were young, working together on the engine and on the ambulance in those days, you had a bad call, you cried about it, you're upset about it, people would call you names.
Absolutely.
And it was real because you were being a baby. And I'm like, we just jumped in a swimming pool and pulled a kid out of the water. And it really hurts. But the stigma, though, has changed, I think, a lot.
It really has changed. And it's continuing to change. I think there are two main reasons that we've seen this stigma change. One, the young kids coming into the organization today are more comfortable talking about what stresses them out. People want to complain about the new generation. I will tell you, this generation is fantastic about talking about how they feel, what hurts, and what feels good. And then for a lot of our organizations, we've really gone after retirees, because once you're retired, then you're willing to tell your story. You're willing to talk about how much you've struggled. You're willing to tell people how hard the work was that you've been doing. So getting those people to be spokesmen, spokeswomen for our current active duty people has made a significant difference. So we've really seen a sandwich from the top and the bottom. And I think that's what's starting to change the stigma, is having old timers being comfortable talking about it, having new people coming into the organization willing to talk about it.
That's incredible. So the impact is evolution. And the spokespeople like Simone, in spreading the word about what we do, how we do it, and be able to share with it earlier about the importance of seeing something, saying something, because we're the last ones going to say something. And if we do see something and say something, to have an impact on that person's life.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Always with things like that, we talk about how to get involved. So there's kind of different categories of being involved. We have the firefighter, paramedic, and EMT. We have the family member. We have people that know people that are firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs. I think everybody, there's a connection somewhere. So if somebody wants to get involved, how can they?
With Stop Our Stigma, it's simple. You can reach out to the website. You can make a donation. You can get involved in a number of different ways. We have a pledge that we're really proud of. And that pledge is for leadership in first responder world, whether it be police, fire, EMS, doctors, nurses. And that pledge is saying that we at the top are willing to recognize that mental health is an issue and start building programs to support our first responders.
That's incredible. And what is the website, Dale?
StopOurStigma.org.
Pretty simple, right?
Pretty simple.
StopOurStigma.org.
I love that pledge, Dale. I think that's amazing. And also, Jim, in addition to that, we also want to recommend people, if they need immediate help, they can reach out to 988. It's powered by Solari here in Arizona. It's something that anyone can reach out to. You don't have to be a first responder. Obviously, S.O.S is focused on first responders, but I know that everyone has mental health that they need to take care of. So if you are out there and you're struggling and you need immediate assistance, I cannot recommend 988 enough.
And what exactly happens when you call 988?
You're connected to somebody who is on the other line who can help talk you through whatever it is you're going through, whatever kind of mental health crisis, so you know that you're not alone, and they can direct you to the immediate support that you need. We have so many amazing organizations here in the Valley. I could start to name them all, but I wouldn't want to leave anyone out. So if you are thinking that you may need assistance, I cannot recommend it enough. Please try it and just know that you are never alone.
When you call 988, there's no answer machine. It's answered 24/7, 365 in the entire state of Arizona. It's an incredible program, an incredible offering for people that are struggling.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how much help is out there. You just have to seek it out.
You mentioned, Dale, going to stopourstigma.org. People want to contact you, Simone. How do they do that?
Sure. Always social media is great. I'm on Facebook, Simone Cuccurullo TV. Also on Instagram, Simone Cuc, CUCC. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Twitter, YouTube, all the social medias. You just search me, I'll come up. Also, my company, Arizona's Family, we are always publishing the latest headlines, and we do a lot of mental health coverage, azfamily.com.
I didn't realize it was so many different types of places where you have social media. Do you have social media as well at Stop Our Stigma, Dale?
We do. You can find us both on Instagram and Facebook under Stop Our Stigma.
So about 15 years ago, when Dr. Ben Brobow reached out to me and said, Jimmy, I want you to start this nonprofit because as the medical director for the state of Arizona, we don't have the resources that you have as a nonprofit to make this level of impact. And look where we are today. I cannot thank you guys enough for being involved for Stop Our Stigma, making an impact in people's lives and making an impact. We don't know how much of an impact we actually have. I cannot thank you enough for being involved in the organization.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having us.
It was an honor to be here.
On behalf of the entire team at Board Developer and Business Ahas and our entire support team around us, see something, say something, call 988, make your resources available to you. We love you all with all of our heart. We want to make sure that everybody has the resources they have for them if they're going through any type of mental health issue. So again, on behalf of our team, thank you very much. And until next time.